of my favourite Seat Headrest albums is Nervous Young Man, and the opening to this album, Boxing Day, is a song that stands out as not just a great song off this album, but one that I think does one of the best jobs at opening an album that I've seen in almost any album. The way it sets the tone and prepares the listener for the album to come is immaculate and, quite frankly, masterful in its way that it contributes to this great album. The thing that I think is the most important to the success of the song is specifically the structure of the song. It's very complex and filled with different sections as it's a 16-minute song. It's a very unique structure and it does an amazing job at setting up this very unique album. So I thought it'd be fun to look into the structure and figure out exactly what it is. And I didn't find it when I looked it up, so I thought it'd be interesting to look into what the actual structure is and give kind of my dissection of it. So I've created a structural analysis, but to know why this song works so well as an opener, we have to know the album decently. So if you know a lot about the album, you want to skip to this time just to find out the structure analysis I've done. But if you want to recap or you don't know very much about this album, let me tell you what it is. On the 23rd of August 2013, as he turned 21, willtoledo released Seat Headrest's longest album ever, the 2-hour-long double album Nervous Young Man, an album titled after his old band Nervous Young Men, with 3 songs that appear deriving from the band, one of these being Boxing Day. Nervous Young Man may be Seat's most ambitious project. Combined with its runtime, these songs are filled with variety in runtime, structures, instrumentation, and themes. Will wanted to create that same feeling that he had growing up when a lot of his first times listening to older bands was in greatest hits compilations, with songs coming from different times in the band's discography, and creating this collection of a bunch of different gems that jump all over the place. Most of these songs were recorded at one period of time, but Will made an effort to record them a bit all over the place, giving them that disjunct feeling where every song might not carry over a theme from the last, but individually are really strong songs all of their own to say. Will's talked about thinking that the concept of the album has outweighed some of the artistic merit behind it, and I do somewhat agree that a few of the songs getting cut would have benefited the album, at least to its mainstream appeal. But I think what differentiates this album is the variety, and how every time you listen to it, a different song can stick out to you, and if you get bored of a song, the next one's going to be great and completely different. Throughout the record, there are a lot of different standout songs. These are personally my favourite, but they constantly vary, as occasionally a new song that I've heard many times just kind of pops out to me that I hadn't really appreciated in a certain way before. But when it comes to the song that I find the most interesting, one of the songs from the Nervous Young Men days is what I think of, and that is Boxing Day, the opening track to this amazing album that sets it up better than almost any opener I've ever heard. What makes it such an interesting and masterful song is the way that it opens up the listener to the album. Not only with its upbeat nature exciting the listener for the album to come, but the way that it really sets up and reflects the album itself all in one song. The song is 15 minutes long, closer to 16, and captivates the listener's attention by having these contrasting sections with different instrumentation and a variety of different melodies and chord progressions throughout. And I think that this variety is what gives the ability to capture this album so perfectly. It jumps from these quieter acoustic sections that represent songs like this, to more distorted rock influence songs that give the album a bit more punch. And by opening with such a multifaceted song, it really gives the album what it needs to truly shine. It's quite hard to come up with a good structural analysis for this song, as it is so long and there are some sections that are a bit blurry in between them. But I didn't see one when I looked one up, so I've put something together that should be decently cohesive as a way to analyse the structure. Keep in mind, I'm still in my GCSEs. I'm not saying this is exactly what Will's intentions were with the song when he wrote it, but just that it's my resolution as to what is happening in this song. Anyway, let's get into the structure. Context, the song is in 4/4 and has a BPM of 155, so I will be giving bar numbers, but they do go by quite quickly, and I might be a little bit of a second wrong on all my measurements because I adjusted the audio when I looked for it just so that it lined up perfectly with the beat that I had, so just very slightly wrong, but it should pretty much be accurate. So the song starts with an introduction going from bars 1 to 73. That is lasting from the start to 1 minute and 51 seconds into it, which is a bit of a long introduction. The way that this is done is by doing a lot of different smaller sections. So from bars 1 to 9, you have these drums, maybe cymbals, maybe I don't play drums, but you have these drums just kind of rising in volume as they're coming in, and then at bar 9 a bass joins in, and this repeats the notes D, A, F sharp, and G, just kind of repeating each note before moving on to the next one. And then at bar 25, a guitar is added, which just plays an F sharp note over and over again, and occasionally it's a little step to an E or a G, and it's quite just like a harsh, piercing sound. And then at bar 49, towards bar 57, we get this just rise in instrumentation where more and more is being joined in, and it all kind of builds up to a small crescendo before it is all cut, and you just hear this one distorted guitar playing what will become the chord progression, which is a D, A, F sharp minor, and G. And then at bar bar 65, we get these drums that get added in, and then a guitar gets added, and we hit our first verse. So verse 1, it spans from 1 minute and 51 seconds to 2 minutes and 41 seconds, and that is from bars 73 to 105. It's a fairly normal verse. The instrumentation doesn't really change much from what we've just risen to, and we get these same notes that we had before in the bass just played as chords. So it's a D, A, F sharp minor, and a G chord progression. I'm not going to go into too much of the lyrics because this is about the structure specifically, because I found that more interesting for this song. But the lyrics are here if you want to look at them. So after we hit bar 105, we move on to our first chorus A, and this spans from 2 minutes and 41 seconds to 3 minutes and 5 seconds, which is bar 105 to 102. Now chorus A is pretty much the same instrumentation, and I'd actually kind of consider this like a mini chorus, because the hook, which is this, is repeated twice and then cut, whereas in the other chorus A's, it's repeated 4 times. So it's just a little like taster of what's to come. And then from the first kind of mini chorus, we go into our verse 2. Now verse 2 spans from bar 121 to bar 153, and this is 3 minutes and 5 seconds to 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Again, this just keeps the instrumentation, it's very similar to the first verse, and this is all apart from the extended introduction, going through the same structure of a normal song. The vocals are there, the guitar is there, and everything's just kind of continuing how it was before. But you do get the introduction of a new instrument, which is brass, and this is playing a D, then E, then F sharp, then G, then A, and that goes back to playing a D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, occasionally playing D, E, F sharp, G, A, G, F sharp, E. In this chorus A, it's 3 minutes and 55 seconds to 4 minutes and 44 seconds. That's bar 153 to 185. Compared to the chorus before, there are 4 repetitions of the hook in this one, and the brass continues over into this chorus. Then this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. So after chorus A2, we get into this transition, and this lasts from bar 185 to 203. Now in this transition, we get this abrupt cut, and it's no longer in this electric, distorted sonic realm it was in, but instead we transition to a very acoustic sound, where there's a complete change in chords, and we go to a G, D, B flat, A minor chord progression. And these aren't even played as full chords, but rather being plucked around on a small arpeggios. And this is what completely changes the song. This is when we go into a completely different sonic realm of this acoustic sound, and it's just the acoustic guitar playing these chords that it's not even playing the full chords of, but rather just plucking them with arpeggios. And this progression gets repeated twice before we move on to our first verse B. So this is just a new verse, but it's completely different to the last one. You can't classify them as both being the same. A verse is supposed to have a similar melody to it, whereas this is just different. It's not at all the same. It's different in every aspect of it, really. It sounds like it could be part of a different song. It's a different chord progression. Now this verse B lasts from bars 203 to 205, which is 5 minutes and 12 seconds to 6 minutes and 2 seconds, and it's quite an impactful, just short verse, and the only difference in this verse to the transition that we've had is just the addition of the vocals, and it's just this very intimate sound of Will's voice and the guitar. But then we move on to what's personally my favourite part of this entire song, which is chorus B1, where the guitar takes a beautiful step to a new chord progression, which is a slightly decorated C, G, D, E. It's a really impactful section of the song, and I think the contrast of this intimacy really helps bring out the kind of hit of the earlier sections, but really draws into these quite just hard-hitting lines that wouldn't be so impactful if misplaced in the song. This chorus B lasts from bars 235 to 265, and that is 6 minutes and 2 seconds to 6 minutes and 46 seconds. Yes, we're already at 6 minutes, and I'm not on the second half of the song yet. So after this, we get our little last transition. It's a bit of an instrumental transition. You can call it whatever you want, it fits the criteria of both. The drums subtly join in at bar 265, and then start to rise similarly as they had at the intro of the song at bar 281. Before at bar 297, an electric guitar joins back in, and we get back to this build-up instrumentation, and everything starts to explode into verse A. Now this is similar to the last verse, except that we don't have that brass introduction that we had in the last verse. Rather, it's just pretty much more similar to verse 1, and but it is kept so much more interesting by the contrast of having just come from this much more intimate place of just the acoustic guitar. Of course, A3 is again just a hook repeated 4 times. Again, this would be quite boring in a normal song if it was just one of these sections, but it's really just the structure of having these different segments of instrumentation that brings so much power into just having every now and then this chorus come back of just the like one good line. After chorus 8, we quickly transition back to the acoustic realm we were in before. At bar 393 we start this transition, except for this time there is a bit more of a bleed from the chorus into this section, having the bass and drums already joined in compared to prior when they joined in during the section. This transition then lasts till bar 411, lasting from 10 minutes and 34 seconds to 11 minutes and 24 seconds. And there's actually a bit of a different melody than the last verse we had, which continues to bring intrigue to these sections that are somewhat repetitive, and combined with the instrumentation that's been added, this section, whilst being more similar to this one, has the influence that we've heard here, giving everything a bit more meaning in the song. Chorus B2 is then started at 11 minutes and 24 seconds, lasting till 12 minutes and 10 seconds, making it from bar 443 to 473. Something about the first half of this chorus actually does sound a bit more stripped back than the verse, to have that instrumentation that flowed into it from the transition, but this is quite quickly changed up when you get this flood of guitar and just sound that interrupts the chorus and takes us into our transition from bar 473 to 528, which is 12 minutes and 10 seconds to 13 minutes and 36 seconds. In this transition we get this big rise from bar 473, which basically just becomes this big kind of static, overwhelming the ears. And at bar 493 we get these kind of chopped up vocals that join in, including what I think is just a reversed vocal and this kind of side to side feeling. And then at bar 512 we get this very simple piano melody, going B, B, A, G, 3 times before adding an A, G. And from this we get to the bridge. I will say that this whole section between the transition and the outro was a lot harder to define its structure of compared to the verses and choruses before, because a lot of this bleeds into each other. So this may be slightly wrong in its labeling, but most of this just kind of feels like a big lead into the outro in the last chorus. So kind of anything from this section onwards, it's a bit up to interpretation, and I'm sorry if I got it a bit wrong. In the bridge we get this sort of altered melody from the chorus A's, where it's same lyrics, but it's been kind of slowed down and it's sung a bit more relaxed. The bridge spans from bar 528 to 560, which is from 1336 to 1424. And at bar 545 we get these really mesmerizing overdubs of Will's voice just kind of floating on top of the main melody, which is in his sort of lower treasure. This bridge then gets interrupted by the more sped up hitting version of the chorus A's that we've had before, with this hook getting repeated twice, pretty much the same as the other choruses. But then we get a change for the last 2 lines of the chorus, where rather than the expected repetition we get these sort of soft spoken lyrics with what sounds like very tired vocals that sort of take breaks in between the words, kind of replicating the first verse's lyrics. And there's a lot of gasps in between the words as all the instrumentation continues to build up into what becomes the outro. At bar 592 we start our outro to this magnificent song, where we get this huge rise of instrumentation and it builds up in crescendos before we just hear these distorted vocals going over this sound of just a guitar being unplugged from an amp, which all gets cut off at bar 602 at the 15 minute and 30 second mark, where this over 600 bar masterpiece closes. As you can see, the structure of the song is really complicated. It comes in with a lot of repetition, and what kind of seems like it could be boring becomes a lot more interesting when you get these different sections, this electric sound compared to the more intimate acoustic sound. And what makes that work is not just, oh wow, there's just 2 songs, it's the way that they bleed into each other for this last part, creating such a satisfying ending to a song. It really encapsulates that variety that Nervous Young Man does, but also keeps itself as a coherent song, and is really just enjoyable to listen to. It's really good at not only setting the atmosphere, but the enjoyability of the album to come. The high tempo and really upbeat sounds really do just kind of get you excited. And even when it is the slower, quieter parts, the melodies there are just so impactful that it doesn't take away from the excitement that you get during the sections where it's all building up and all the instrumentation's bleeding into each other. I think what makes the song so interesting to me as an opener is just how complex it is, which is also completely astonishing, as this is a song that Will wrote in high school. Even if it's not originally intended for the album, it does just such a perfect job at being its opener. I cannot imagine any way this song could be any better for opening this album, and I really do love this album from all my heart. Anyway, I spent a long time making this video, I then didn't make it, and then I did just now. I figured all this out a while ago and I just forgot to actually make the video for a little bit. So if something kind of seemed like I've forgotten what I'm talking about, that's why. Thank you for watching.